Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast, recording for the week of July 1st, Canada Day. Happy Canada Day to everyone.
Good day.
I'm your host, Dan Holman, with the Wealthy Retailer and Canadian Retail Solutions. And I've got my man, Rob, with Road 55 here with us this morning to feed us some headlines. Morning, Rob.
Morning. How are you? Happy Canada Day.
Yeah, happy Canada Day. I didn't put my Canada Day shirt on. I should have had my Twig and Berry's Canada gear on today.
Yeah, that would have been a good call on your part. That you missed
that
cross collab promo.
I did. Yeah.
Well, you got it now. Tell people what's Twig and Berry's? Where do they go?
Twig and Berry's. That's the kids' men's apparel company. It's a men's essentials brand that the kids are running with. Having some fun. So it's tees, hoodies, hats, underwear, of course, underwear. My favorite underwear now, nutsack, and shorts, loungewear, tons of great stuff.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
I can charge them for this now.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Well, speaking of charging, I plan on charging a few donuts today because it is Canada Day. It's the one day of the year I feel it's okay to buy donuts.
All right.
Every day of the year. Excited about the headlines we've got. For that world of retail, you're a independent retail owner, manager, like you're in the thick of it, and we know it's thick right now. And I'm always excited to hear your thoughts, Dan, on what's going on. Headlines everywhere. So, anyways, I'll get on with it. We're going to touch a bit about a story about service backlog that COVID's created. That's kind of an interesting topic. Customer experience, the human touch. People are longing for it, and more important than it's ever been. There's a Colliers report coming out talking about what's to be expected in the retail world June to August. Get a good sense of that. And Dan, I think you're going to be sharing a really interesting point with us from your 12 steps of retail. So looking forward to that. Getting people focused on ROI. And I like this one. The right price does not always have to be the lowest price. Some cool stories. And let's not hesitate anymore. Let's get going here. This first story comes to us from Auto News. Saw the headline, clicked on it. Not going to lie, the website blocked me from reading the story. However, the headline kind of said it all, and I think you agreed a bit, Dan, that COVID has created a service backlog out there in the retail world, and maybe share with us a bit your thoughts of what you're seeing and hearing out there.
Certainly, yeah, and I kind of got the same experience. I went to read that article. I was drawn in by the headline. Of course, we've talked about this before. Good writers, they know how to grab your attention with a headline. And this certainly grabbed my attention. Hey, COVID creates this service backlog. And we're no stranger to the philosophy or belief that service trumps all. And when we're not in store as much, it's creating a bit of a backlog. And so this really came from, the auto sector and how we have this cadence of servicing our vehicle down. And they've built models. They've built a great revenue gen model on servicing your vehicle. And COVID has created this backlog. Well, it doesn't just exist in the auto market. It exists in every sector of retail. And auto, one of our guests on our retail podcast a few months ago, sort of pre-COVID, was Bruce Kirkland with Lexus Edmonton, probably in my mind one of the greatest auto dealers in Canada, dealerships in Canada. And he spoke very much about his business being synonymous with retail. They really look at it like retail/hospitality. And it has created a backlog. COVID, gosh, I can't wait till we're done talking about it. COVID has created this backlog at every level of retail, whether that was, look at what happened to the kids. We're just coming off of graduation. Here we are, July 1st. Grads are pretty much all done and finished. But the backlog it created in in prom, in that vertical, was crazy. The people that started shopping for prom January, February, getting ready, immediately hit this roadblock.
Yep.
And for our kids here, that have just come off of a week of celebrating, that was a backlog in service, in getting what they needed, in getting, the boys, jazzed up in their tuxes, quasi tuxes, and the girls doing their thing with their dresses. So there was a service backlog, and we're starting to see that gently lighten up now as people are getting more and more back to routine. I'm not going to say back to normal, but back to a routine.
Has a lot of it, have you seen it just being overcome by, just over communicate through this whole process, that everyone's suffering from this right now? The excuse is there. However, don't assume the excuse is there. You should still be doing everything to communicate with your clients.
Oh boy, excuse. I'm glad you brought that up. Excuse. There is a difference between excuse and reason. Excuse is this deflection of blame onto something or someone I have no control or influence over. Oh my gosh, is that not where we are today? And the independent, the retailer that is maybe stutter stepping, is maybe floundering, is using today or today's circumstance as an excuse for why they're suffering versus the reason, the why it is the way it is. And again, there's been too much emphasis on, we've lost this ... instead of this is now where we're going. We focus so much energy on what we've lost, not what there is to gain. And I think this next story speaks a little bit to that.
And we'll take that as our segue into this next story. It's a report of the globalnewswire.com. Colliers put a report out talking about retail sales for June to August. It's not great news. And, they're talking about a 45%, or that they're expecting retailers to make 45% of last year's number. And but one I picked up on a really interesting, I thought it was interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Dan. A couple items. One, the quote in the story talks about, we may see landlords spending money where they previously didn't to drive traffic for their retailers, providing that positive guest experience, communicating their COVID-19 readiness will become a major advantage for those well-managed malls and shopping centers. But another quote in the story talked about exploring new sales avenues, and so without a doubt, online, a tremendous amount are going there. They're trying to break into that world if they haven't already, or do a better job of it. They're saying 41% are looking at online sales, but then they say 74% of retailers are exploring new sales avenues. So I'm a bit of a math guy. I see the difference. What's happening in that 33%, Dan?
You know what? I kind of got caught up in this article doing my math. I'm this great believer in math, and the math didn't line up. But here's the reality. Right now, and Colliers, give a shout out to Colliers. My favorite, if you can have a favorite realtor on the commercial side of life, my closest friend, Mike Keating with Colliers International, great at feeding me lots of great sort of industry information. And I lean hard on Colliers information. They curate a lot of great numbers. So
keep those experts close to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I hold a lot of their information in high regard. And so, one of the things that was a bit concerning to me, as I read through this article, was the number. 74% of retailers are exploring new sales avenues. 74%.
Yep.
Which means, 26% of retailers aren't trying something new.
Yeah, that's
that
an
in
interesting
itself is a problem. That in itself is a red flag. New sales revenues, new sales avenues, not revenues, pardon me, new sales avenues. These opportunities aren't just online, but it is this combination of, and I think that article made reference to about 41% of their studied audience was looking at online revenue gen.
Right.
So how were they going to convert to some online? But that meant that 59% of their studied audience wasn't looking at online, or perhaps was already there.
Right.
So it didn't get into that depth. But I'm concerned that there's this 25 or 26% of retailers out there that are not exploring other revenue opportunities. And that doesn't mean shifting from your retail store to the car wash. It means looking within your business and seeing where opportunities aren't. The greatest exercise a retailer can go through is gap analysis. What can I offer that my neighbor doesn't, or that my competition doesn't? And those are themselves revenue. Yeah, exactly. Hit them where they ain't. And that's part of what's broken in today's model, is that I don't do enough gap analysis. I don't find the hole that is itself an opportunity. Yeah. The other thing that really stood out to me, and I think we're going to touch on this a couple of times today, 93% of their retail tenants believe adhering to government regulations for reopening will increase their costs. 47% of that audience plan to reduce expenses. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. No business has ever been saved by reducing expenses alone. No business has ever been saved by reducing expenses alone. If you're a retailer and you're listening to this podcast and you think your saving grace will be the expense reduction strategy in your store, oh my God, please call me. I need to help you through that. You will not save your business by purely cutting expenses alone. You've got to look at generating alternate revenue. You've got to drive sales. And when this whole thing started, one of our core messages to our audience was get selling. Don't worry about expenses. You got to worry about expenses. But if your focus, if your energy is on how do I cut expenses, you're doomed.
Yeah. Well, it almost seems like even the story previous, the crutch, the what's to blame, and it sounds like, unfortunately, there's a quarter out there who are not doing anything. They're not changing their business at all. The excuse is there. And I don't think it's any coincidence that kind of aligns with the number that they think is going to be impacted the hardest. And probably more times than not, COVID or not, these are the ones who are going to be most greatly challenged in their business model.
For sure.
Go ahead. Yep.
No, I say for sure. And furthermore, when you look into this, you read this article, and guys, you got to read this article. We're gonna put it in the newsletter for you so that you can read this. They talked about these retailers hiring back, I think the number was 51 to 75, kind of a weird sense, but 50 to 75% of their workforce would return to work. And it comes off as a bit of a negative that only 50 to 75% are going to come back. Well, let me tell you, it's going to be 50%. It's the cream of the crop that you're bringing back. This is not a negative. This is a positive. This is an opportunity for that retailer to really refine, their
really fine-tune their team,
their presentation, their team. And a little further down, we're going to talk about that. How do you build a winning team? Yep. Well, boy, oh boy, here's your opportunity right now.
100%. I like, back to that comment about the landlords, doing parts more too, and don't sit on your hands. Like, get on that horn and push them. Whether you're in a mall or even a strip mall, like, hey, what are you doing to help? There's 4 of us in this strip mall here. What are you doing to help put together a big sidewalk sale? What are you doing to help lead the charge? And don't wait for that to come to you. Get out there and instigate it.
And I think that, we've had more opportunity to engage with our landlords in the last 6 months or 4 months, than we've ever had in the past. And right now is that opportunity to be collaborative, to call him or her and say, hey, have an idea.
Yeah.
Hey, can we get together? Can we grab a coffee, a beer, a wine, whatever it is, and chat about how to drive more traffic to this center?
Yep.
Look at the other businesses that are near you, in your strip, and collaborate. How do we
Yep.
drive more traffic? Listen, the the auto dealers have this covered in spades. You know,
Yep.
how many auto dealerships have you ever seen by themselves? They don't do standalone.
Yeah. They love the
There's a
cluster.
groundbreaker.
Yep.
There's an
Yep.
early
Yep.
adopter. You're going to see, Lexus of Edmonton. You're going to see them pop up a store in a strange spot, middle of 170th Street in Edmonton, and it didn't take long before all of the luxury guys were within that block.
Yep. Totally.
Right? It's how they attract each other, and they know they're collaborating now. How do we drive more traffic? How do we pull people from the south side? And that's what retail has to do.
It's funny seeing a lot of stories too when you talk about push your landlord. I think even push your municipality, push government. You look at things that are happening where they're letting outdoor patios be double, triple the size they were. They're letting your sidewalk sale. You remember how stringent they would be before that. That rack of clothes does not go any more than 3 feet outside your door. Well, you know what? Get on the horn to your mayor, your councillor, and say, hey, you know what? We want to take over 500 square feet. We want to put a little part. I bet you're going to get a pretty receptive person on the other end of that call.
I can tell you, speaking from, sitting on this COVID-19 recovery task force here in our city in St. Albert, that the council, administration, economic development, they're here for you. They're here for the retailer. They're here for all businesses for sure, but they have a crisp understanding of the challenges and are being more and more flexible and producing more and more good content, better economic development content than they have ever done. These guys are doing a really good job, and you're right. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call your mayor.
Well, here's a way to leverage the excuse the other way, where they're not going to get in trouble right now for everyone's pulling out every stop they can to. We're out to help as much as
and this is how we convert it from being an excuse to a reason. The reason I'm doing this is because of the effects. I have become a victim of circumstance, but I will control my destiny. And now I need a little bit of grace, to maybe edge over that sidewalk. Look what they're doing on White Ave in Edmonton. Right? They're closing up lanes of traffic to give bars and restaurants and retailers an opportunity to get out there.
Well, for our hometown, I made the observation to the mayor made a post recently, and I made the it was about closing down a road, and I said, geez, I've noted every year in the past that they close down the main downtown street that 5,000 to 10,000 people show up. When something's going on, oh my gosh, look what happens. And I think now it takes that kind of leadership and I added to, there will be lots of people yelling. However, if it's our goal to accommodate those who want to get through downtown as quick as possible, then get rid of all parking and let's make it 100 kilometers an hour. Just let them plow right through.
And there is no space where I just want to get through downtown. Right? Here in St. Albert, I don't want to get through downtown. If I'm going downtown, I don't need to get through it. It doesn't, downtown, it used to be, downtown. You go into any old town in Canada, and you drive through their town center, it is the only way through town. We're not like that. When we go downtown, we're going downtown for a purpose. So these people that have this need to speak out about this, they're going to speak out about everything.
But even if your store is in that town with it, they got to get through it. Inconvenience them for 30 seconds. I really believe the benefit can be huge.
You have to.
Oh, okay. Well, we got to keep moving along here.
I don't know why you took us off on that big long tangent.
I know I was enjoying that topic, but let everyone know that this podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. From the latest point of sale software to e-commerce solutions, They can help you with Heartland Retail, Retail Pro, Shopify, and more. They have the retail solutions to make your store much more successful. Let them help you find your cutting-edge retail solution today. Visit retailbycrs.com. Okay, onwards. We've got more headlines to go, and this one's important, and this comes to us from a story on CanadianManufacturing.com. It talks about the customer experience, and I know that's very important to you. Great quote in here. It talks about a PwC consumer intelligence survey. 15,000 global consumers confirms what has been observed in countless shopper retail interactions. The human touch still matters. 75% stating they want more in the future, not less. So furthermore, shoppers consider customer experience more important than price and product and quality. So here we are, Dan. People want the human touch. What do our independent retailers have to do with this?
This was a really well written article and had some good links in it to get over to Fashion Nation and fashionunited.ca. This was a really well written article, and I'll tell you a couple of things that really stood out to me. Yes, customer experience will help retailers overcome the financial hit. Without a doubt, it's customer experience. And even in this, you're hearing so much from payment processing to messaging from the government, contactless. Not everyone wants a touch-free environment. We still long for social engagement. The reason that we go to the store, the reason we go to the mall is not to buy a shirt. We may trick ourselves into thinking that if I wanted to buy a shirt, I can do it, on my couch in my underwear. I want to go out to a store. I want to have human engagement. I want someone to understand what my need is, and then to satisfy that need and more. I want my retailer to understand I'm trying to build an outfit for something. I'm trying to build a total solution. And this article really touched on the power of that human engagement. And I think I read this quote, I jotted this down quickly. As retailers slowly open, they're focusing on safety and hygiene protocols, but continuing to fail to invest in their own human capital. Instead of recognizing the long-term benefit of devoting attention to their employee, they obsess over minimizing labor costs, leading to increased turnover and poorly managed stores. People want good interaction, right? I don't want the sneaky furniture guy hiding around the corner watching me in the store. I want someone that engages me head on, that asks meaningful questions, that wants to understand what I'm doing in the store. We want this touch, and we're missing it in stores today. We're missing it with all of this BS attention to creating barriers. I watched a webinar yesterday that our partners at Management One put on about some of the things that they're seeing, successes that they're seeing in stores. And I watched a shoe store that went to the exercise of creating, specialized cubicles for trying on footwear. He put up, 10 or 12 or 15 of these 6x6 cubicles to try things on. And that satisfied his audience. But I can tell you that's probably not the store I'm walking into. And that doesn't have anything to do with me being a believer or not a believer in this whole COVID stuff. This has to do with me needing interaction. The reason I go into a store is for the interaction. I'm a guy, and it's still not just utilitarian for me. It's still not me going and getting a shirt. I want that interaction. I want it to fit right. I want the right color. I want a great experience.
I think of things too, like just evaluating every touch point that you have within your business. I think of even like an online purchase, a delivery. You think of how many deliveries come where, box is here, here's the item I ordered. Yep, there it is. But then on the other side, you think of those, and what become quite shareable moments on social media is that little handwritten note or that little surprise, and I would classify that as that human interaction with the customer
Right.
that just blows them away. And look for those opportunities everywhere down the trail in your business to make those touch points.
To create customers for a lifetime. I'll share a quick story. I got a text from one of my clients yesterday, Robin at Cloud9 Pajamas,
Yep.
my all-time favorite pajama store, and probably even beyond pajamas, one of my favorite retailers. I love this family. I got this text from Robin that said, "Hey, is your office open today?" Candace, my daughter, bought something from them.
Yep.
And they wanted to deliver it yesterday. So not only, did they do the free delivery to the office. I mean, Robin reached out to go the extra mile to make a delivery. And Katie showed up at the office, I guess, and delivered it. But it's that level of service. And that's not because they are, in the Canadian Retail Solutions circle. That has nothing to do with it.
No,
That's their philosophy of delivering value and the handwritten. I mean, not only is it the hand delivered, it's the handwritten note that says, "Thank you so much." It is a touch point. And here we are talking a little bit about this contactless world. And this is a touch point that means so much.
Yep.
I know that Candace is a customer for life because of that touch point, because of that experience. And it continues, in many, many stores. Through the COVID-19 thing, we had retailers dropping things off at our front door. And that has not stopped even when stores are reopening today.
Right.
We're still seeing, hey, wait a minute, there's a need for us to do this. And again, Candace is learning that through this other retail experience. She delivered a Twig and Berries product to somebody, in a condo yesterday because they needed something for Canada Day.
Yeah.
So, she jumped in the car and she delivered it to them.
Yep.
That's the kind of contact, that's the kind of touch that we need in retail.
Awesome. Love those stories. Okay, our next story comes to us from thesuburban.com. This talks about, it's that token buy local, but, buy Canadian-made fashion, not only to help the economy and the environment. Read you this quote from the story. "People are becoming more educated, and there's been a huge up-leveling of knowledge as a consumer. People have been questioning the sources of their food and their beauty products. They feel that we're now entering this third phase where people are looking a lot closer at their closet. They're asking, what goes into my clothing? How are the fabrics made? Where did it come from?" So, yeah, fashion local. What's your thoughts there, Dan?
I'm going to say, again, this decent written article, enjoyed the read. In my perfect world, I was on a podcast with Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub. I had an opportunity to join her podcast and share a bit of my, sometimes messed up opinion on things, my outlook. And she asked me, about what did this look like coming out of COVID? And I said to her, in a perfect world, shops open back up. Local shops open back up. Local manufacturers open back up. And I think that this story talks about, these guys that are in the fashion world. I mean, let's remember, there's about 25,000 retail and wholesale fashion companies in Canada. There's 2,400 fashion stores in that mecca. And I think that, these guys manufacturing 30 minutes from their store, speaks to something powerful. And we want to see this. If all prejudices aside, and I don't know, you don't have to say that, but all prejudices aside, all craziness about China and all this other stuff aside, I want to see local production.
Right.
I want to see Canadian-made products. I want to see that T-shirt manufacturer coming back to life. in Canada.
And making sure you're communicating it, that your staff knows. You've got
that you're sharing that message.
Signage, the special local section. And
there needs to be thought to what's going into your mix.
Yeah.
For retailers, we've done a good job at sourcing offshore product and margin goods, and that needs to continue. That needs to be a complement in your assortment.
Yeah.
But there is going to be power in the next 24 months at sourced locally.
Around that, yeah. No, agreed.
Absolutely. And I think, there's an article a little later on that we're going to talk about value. People are absolutely going to pay more for locally sourced products and happily support locally sourced products.
Well, before we get to that story, let's take a look, Dan, at building the winning team. You've got a great video on your website, thewealthyretailer.com, that talks about the 12 steps, and one of those steps is just really focused on building that winning team. Share a few points from that, would you?
Well, so that whole idea, build a winning team, or the wealthy retail, the 12 steps to wealthy retail, we created this sort of escalating or consequential movement through becoming wealthy at retail. And step number 2 for us is build a winning team. And too often we make this mistake of hiring on skill and experience instead of values. And when we're building a winning team, it's critical that we interview, we hire, we reward, we recognize, and we fire based on foundational values in your people. And it's about hiring the person that's aligned with you. Yep. For us at Canadian Retail Solutions, we live and die by our core values. Number 1 is service above self. Put your client ahead of yourself, thinking always about what does the client need, not what do I need. And we recognize if we can live in this service above self world, we will feel consequential reward. We believe wholeheartedly in embracing change. One of our values is that we live in an ever-changing environment, and it's never been more true. And we have to embrace that change, not resist it. We have to act with integrity, and integrity is often confused with honesty. Integrity, this steadfast belief, this unwavering belief in the delivery of service. We we believe that we have to be passionate about what we do. And every retailer out there has to recognize that passion will drive energy in your environment. I say to my team, if you're not passionate about technology, if you're not passionate about retail, if you're not passionate about moving the needle in your community through your retailer, you can't work here.
Yeah.
You can't. And, for us, the 5th core value, this comes from, Sean Aker. If you've not listened to Sean Aker on YouTube, go and search out Sean Aker and The Happiness Advantage. Read that book, The Happiness Advantage. He will help you realize a new way, a new outlook. Happiness has to be your destination, not success, not revenue, not anything else. Happiness comes ahead of success, not the other way around. Yeah. And that's one of the values that we embody. And so, as a retailer, when I'm out there hiring, I want to hire based on my core values. I want someone that believes in creating a win-win environment. I want someone that's energized. I want someone that's admired. I want someone that's lean. I want someone that's tenacious. I want someone that's happy. I mean, that is wealthy retail. And you have to be a really good parent when you're building your winning team. Being a good parent means you've got a small handful set of rules. You repeat yourself often, and you continue to coach people based on values, not skill and experience.
It's not a set that's how we get it, right?
Yeah. And you've got to be a good coach, a great coach. You've got to have this ability to inspire your team,
Yep.
Got to be at that. I mean, leadership is all about inspiration. You've got to be, a great inspiration to your team. You've got to incentivize them. You've got to reward and recognize and incentivize them to go the extra mile. And you have to inspect what you expect. You want to build a winning team, follow those three core attributes. Inspire, incentivize, and inspect, and continue coaching people. That's how you build a winning team.
Yep. You build a winning team. How about audit a winning team? How often should the retailer be doing this with their team?
It's an ongoing exercise. When I say ends. Be a great coach, listen, you're a hockey guy.
Yep.
Where is the coach?
I got hit with too many pucks in the head.
But the coach is in the game. Yep. The coach, 100%. After every shift, has something to say to you.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a kick, sometimes it's a nod, sometimes it's a smile. Sometimes he leans down or she leans down and whispers in your ear, next time try this, or whispers in your ear, wow, great job. That is coaching. That is inspecting what you expect from your team. And it happens on a constant, fluid basis. Yep. It's not a one and done.
I remember a great standout moment for me with coaching was in a game, coaching only what has been practiced, and reinforcing what has been practiced. The coach who tried to teach something new in the middle of a game, it was a disaster. So the floor's open, customers are out there, not the greatest moment. This is what we're going to get into.
To change your system or to teach a system.
Make sure you've set time aside. Right. So.
I mean, I think that this speaks to, the best coaches are the ones that recognize someone's unique ability, right? They recognize what each person has and they help them to elevate to their unique ability. If you're a goal scorer, I coach you to score goals. If you're a goalie, if you're a goal stopper, if you're a defensive player, I coach you to be a better defensive player. I don't try to get you to score goals.
Yeah.
Your unique ability is your ability to defend, which is really an operational function in our retail world. When we start to break things down using sports analogies, our offensive team are our frontline people, right? They're the ones that score the goals. They're out there in front of the customer. Yep. Our defenders are our operational people. They're the ones that create structure and system. No goal is ever scored without a great structure.
And go where the puck's going to be, not where it's been.
Thanks, Wayne. Canada Day. You got to celebrate great hockey,
it's
right?
Canada Day. Like we're entitled.
Yeah.
Okay. Our last headline here comes to us from retailpro.com. Recessionary shoppers, convenience over experience. Quote from the story, it talks about, it says, most importantly, retailers should view convenience as constantly evolving. People's tastes change rapidly, and what may be considered convenient today may tomorrow seem as dated as ornamental beards. So
I'm not sure what an ornamental beard is going to look like in today's world.
Should we go wax our beards after they're done? So
toss a few beads in. Listen,
some interesting things in here.
Yeah. A big fan of Retail Pro. Obviously, we've been a Retail Pro business partner for a quarter of a century. We love Retail Pro. We love the product, and I read almost everything that they produce when it has Canadian content for me.
Yeah.
And this article really spoke to me. The way that, they did a good job in talking about price, quality, value. They talked a little bit about convenience, and they talked about, the retailer that understands how to curate the just right selection of product is going to be the one that has this competitive advantage. Well, this is grade school. This is primary coaching in retail. I need the right inventory at the right time in the right category. I need the right amount in the right category right now to take advantage of my competitive opportunity here. And as they start to talk about, speed and convenience, I think speed and convenience, well, a year ago, was what all the retail experts were talking about.
Right.
They're trying to justify why Amazon is winning. It was all about speed and convenience. Well, I think speed and convenience is going to take a bit of a backseat.
Yep.
I think that, when we start to talk about price, quality, and value, we're going to pay more for what we value. And every customer, every client, every opportunity that you're fortunate enough to have walk through your brick and mortar door, your virtual door, has their own price, quality, value equation.
Yep.
And yes, they want a convenient shopping experience. Yes, they're walking through the door, which means they need it to be right now. And you have to have the foresight to plan, to predict what they need in your store right now. And, as we talk about, retailers that know how to curate the right inventory at the right time, they will win. And in every instance, I will lean harder on value than I will on price. I'm prepared to pay more for a better experience.
Yep.
And Rob, this is in every aspect of our life. We pay more. And I use this a lot with my retailers. Put your hand up if you buy Heinz ketchup.
Yep.
Why? Yeah, that's why. You believe it's better. You believe that it's better quality, and I'm prepared to pay more for it than the one that sits on the shelf above or below it that's, $1.50 cheaper.
I know you've talked before too about the right price, of not necessarily approaching your store with just multiply my cost by 2.5, right?
Yeah.
Because you, in many cases, you're leaving money on the table because the right price could be 4 times, and whatever that multiplier looks like.
And I truly believe, and maybe this is not just my belief, this is my experience, the right price is rarely the lowest price. Rarely the lowest price. Again, I repeat myself often, price, quality, value. Everyone has a price, quality, value equation. And if you have a product that presents itself at $10, why would you price it at $8? Why would you leave 20 points on the table? Yep. That 20 points is the difference between your kid going to community college and your kid going to university. So, protect yourself and look at the price of your goods and the positioning of your goods to maximize that opportunity, to expand on the price, quality, value equation. And value is connected to experience.
Yep. Right on. Thanks for that, Dan. Okay, sir.
Yeah, what a day. Holy cow.
Good morning.
Blown through some time this morning here.
Yeah.
Guys, if you have not subscribed to the Wealthy Retailer podcast, you can find it on your favorite podcast platform. Just search out the Wealthy Retailer and we're there. Subscribe, like, share. Let us know if you have comments, if you agree or disagree. Love a great debate. You can catch us over at thewealthyretailer.com or at retailbycrs.com. And we've got a ton of great stuff over there that's maybe a bit biased, a ton of great stuff. There's a lot of stuff. I think it's okay.
Well, and on the newsletter too, remember folks, we'll have the links to all the stories that we discussed today. In addition, from the past week, there's been some other ones that unfortunately didn't quite have enough time to touch on, but you might want to have a boo. Microsoft just announced they're closing all physical stores, including Canadian locations. New approach to retail. See what that's about. Happy Canada Day. New NAFTA comes into effect. So
today,
as of today, July 1st, what does that mean to you? You want to see that story. And safeguarding employee privacy in the time of COVID, things retailers need to be aware of. So some great story links that we chatted about today. And as I said, more. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. Brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. Remember, at their core, they believe in having real and relevant relationships, offering solution-based sales and services, maintaining a client-centered bottom-line focus, and providing credible and complete care. They exist to make you retailers better. Have a great day, everyone.
Happy retailing. Cheers.